Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julie Adams, and I'm the Executive Director for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. And I also serve as the Chair of the Elections Committee and oversee the elections process. Before we get started, I'm just going to go over some housekeeping rules. So if it's easier if you have it in presenter view and then you can see the presentation well, but whatever feels comfortable to you, go ahead and put your computer in that mode. Accessibility, their live transcription is below upon request. Just press the CC button on the bottom. I think it should already be on, and let me just double check. It should already be on, so if you have any trouble, please just drop it in the chat, and I will check on that. And then recording, you all know it's already being recorded, and Q&As. I'd like you to save them till the end, but if there's a burning question on the slide, just go ahead and raise your hand, and I can try and answer questions. What I want to do is I want to be able to get through the entire slide presentation, but I don't think it's a full hour long. And then the last piece is respect and engage. So if any conversations or questions, please just keep it professional and inclusive, and you can use the chat for any concerns or any pieces. I'm here on my own, so I don't have anybody helping me monitor the chat. So if I miss it, raise your hand and I will try to acknowledge that. So first and foremost, the SSCCC guarantees we want a transparent, fair, and equitable elections process for the board officers and the regional officers, emphasizing openness and impartiality. We try our best, and we have some safeguards in place in case sometimes we misstep. The body calls us out on it, and we do have pieces that we have refined in our elections process. So please be sure that you look over the elections process and that you're well aware of your roles as a possible candidate, as well as being a delegate in the process. So just read over our commitment. So this whole presentation is going to go over both the election of the board officers and the regional officers. So depending on what position you're running for, some folks run for both. We'll just try to pay attention to the guidelines and the deadlines. So the first one I'll just go over quickly is the election of the board officers. The positions to be elected, as with every year, are the president, the vice president of regional affairs, the vice president of legislative affairs, the vice president of finance, and the vice president of communications. These are the 6 officer positions. The voting process for executive officer begins Sunday. Well, actually, the nominations are on Friday. Nominations from the floor will be Friday morning. That's when they happen. And then the voting process occurs on Sunday. Sunday usually starts the elections right in the morning, so make sure that you're there and you're present. Balloting will be done by balloting, and we use Poll Everywhere, which is an electronic ballot if you haven't been there before. Who votes? All of our delegates are the voting delegates. The general attendees just participate by observing the elections process. And it'll happen at the General Assembly, which is the LAX Westin on April 4th through the 6th. And registration is already open. We will have access via Zoom. So if you are not there present to run for an office, you can still run and be accessible via Zoom. You just won't have access to all the pieces of the process. The next one is for the elections of regional officers. The positions to be elected are the Regional Affairs Director, the Vice Chair, the Legislative Affairs Director, the Treasurer, and the Communications Officers for each of the regions. And the Regional Affairs Director and the Legislative Affairs Directors also serve on the Board of Directors. The voting on that is a day different than in the past. So if you have participated in the past, we will hold our elections on Saturday instead of Friday. So that's Saturday, April 5th. It'll be in the evening after most of the activities have happened during the day. It'll be via voice vote in the actual regional delegate assembly. The people that will be voting are the regional delegates, and it'll happen in the meeting rooms and via Zoom, and that will be listed on the agenda. So here are some deadlines to be mindful of. And if you have a camera or you have your phone, I suggest you take a picture of, but the deadlines are also available on our website. So just go over these very quickly. The executive election deadlines, we've already passed. The election announcement came out, which I hope that's how you all became aware of it. We have the election webinar today, which you're in attendance. Your intent to seek office is should be turned in by February 24th, 11:59 p.m. No applications that are late will be accepted, but you won't miss the opportunity. You can still vote from the floor on the first day of the General Assembly. The next deadline is March 10th. That's when your candidate statement is due, and we'll cover that a little bit in the presentation. Also on March 17th, your candidate statements will be posted online so you can see who else is running for the position. April 4th, that's your mandatory candidate information and form session. If you do not attend this session, April 4th, it's usually it's right after lunch. You'll required, and it'll be marked in the agenda, so you'll have the exact time and location. If you do not show up, you will be disqualified from running for a position. So this is a mandatory candidate form that you must be there. And we'll go over a little bit of that later too. And then on April 6th is the election during the General Assembly, as I mentioned. The regional election timeline is a little bit slimmer. February 3rd, the regional candidate packet was released. If you didn't receive it, it's on our website under regions. March 10th, all the candidate statements and the eligibility verification requirements are due. And then on April 5th, the elections happen, and the time is noted there, 5:15 to 7:30 during the delegate assembly. Next part is the eligibility criteria. So to be eligible to run for any position on either the executive officer or the regional officers, you must be enrolled in a community college in the time you're running for election, and we will verify, and you have to have the minimum of 5 semester units or equivalent quarters. And you must meet and maintain minimum standards of scholarship prescribed by community college students by your district. So that means you have to be in good standing at your campus. The number 2 way you can be eligible is you're enrolled in an adult education program at any one of our community college districts. And that you don't have a minimum unit requirement. You just have to show proof that you're enrolled. And then the third way to be eligible is to be considered a disabled student. That means you have some record that you are enrolled in DSPS in order to be eligible. And that's you just would be asked to show proof of that. The candidate statements. It's a 1-page biography with your name, college, and candidate position. All of this is spelled out in the candidate statement. You can get all these instructions there. So there's 4 pieces, and pay very close attention to the question. There are 3 questions that you're asked to complete. If you do not answer all 3 questions, you will be disqualified. We've had some folks send in and answer only 1 or 2 of the questions, not all 3. Usually I will reach out to you and say, you did not put in all 3 answers. Would you like to revise your application and give you a kind of a quick couple-hour turnaround to do that? But there's no guarantee that that will occur. Just make sure you complete the questions. And then if you are a RAD or a LAD, that's the additional question. So if you're running for the regional affairs officer or the legislative affairs director, then you would have to answer that 4th question. If you're running for treasurer or for comms person, director, you would not have to answer that question. And then you must answer all questions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the candidate statement. The candidate statement is your first real communication to the delegates that don't know you. So make sure that your candidate statement is professional. Make sure that it is a true expression of who you are. Make sure you answer the questions as I just mentioned. Check for typos. I will not check for typos and or things that don't make sense. Whatever you send in is what we publish. So make sure you ask a friend or somebody to check it. And here I've given you two examples of the candidate statements. One on the left was a professional presentation of the candidate. They used every bit of space they could to reflect who they are and answered all the questions. The one on the right-hand side was just a paragraph, which is fine as long as you answer all the questions, but it really is not a true portrait of the candidate. It doesn't have a picture, and it didn't have any other reflection of who they were. Now, you are also required to send in a picture, but this picture was not attached to the candidate statement, yet it was in the booklet. So here's your run a show for the elections. So it's going to be the same for the executives as it is for the regions. So the first starts when we get actually to the General Assembly. The nomination process is you'll have an announcement of who are those are running. So if the election is the one for the executive officers, that announcement takes place on Friday. So the president from the podium will announce who are the individuals running for position by position in alphabetical order. And he will announce, for example, president, these are the candidates we received in advance. So he announces then, and then he'll call for anybody running from the floor. So from the floor are those folks who didn't have an opportunity to turn in a candidate statement or chose not to and wanted to run from the floor. And they will be nominated from the floor. Now, there's two ways you can be nominated from the floor. You can be nominated from the floor by yourself. You can self-nominate. If you are a delegate, you don't need anybody else to second that. If you're not a delegate, you're maybe just a member of the SBA or a general student, and you want to self-nominate, that's fine, but a delegate has to second that nomination. If there's no second for your nomination, you will not be able to run for that position. Or if you're a delegate and you just say, I want to run for the position, you don't need a second. There's also a requirement for quorum. So if we don't have quorum on General Assembly Day, we don't hold elections. In my time, that hasn't happened, but it could. In the regions, it occurs the same way. The RAD at this point would present who had submitted a candidate statement and then do a call from the floor. And in that aspect, you can run from the floor in your region delegate assembly. Same way you did in the executive officers. It's just the timing. And quorum still needs to be met in the delegate assembly. That can occur at the General Assembly. The voting is conducted by the delegates in both times. And as I mentioned, poll everywhere in the executive officers, and in the regions, it's by voice vote. So now this is a forum, and this only applies to the executive officers, but there is a variation in the regions, and I'll delineate that. So in the General Assembly, in the main session for the executive officers, you have to go to the mandatory forum. And in the mandatory forum, folks will send and give questions to me, and I filter through those questions just to make sure they're questions that are professional and they're not inappropriate in a way. So I scan through them, and usually I have more questions than I can have the time to answer. But you as a candidate will be given time for an introductory speech. And I believe, well, depending on the number of candidates, if we have 30 candidates for president, we will shorten the time. But currently it's 5 minutes if you're running for president and 3 minutes if you're running for any of the VP positions. So you'll get that first introduction of yourself. I suggest you sketch it out and be prepared for it. So in reading from your phone or something else is appropriate. Then we'll get questions from the audience, and I will ask those questions, trying to balance between the positions, if it's for the president only or across the board. And usually we'll have anywhere from 2 to 3 questions. And then there are times for rebuttal And that rebuttal usually means if somebody accuses or makes an accusation, then you may have a time to respond. We haven't had that happen in a couple of years. So, but if it does, just know there is a way for you to be able to address that. And then we'll conclude. We'll probably just conclude with a question. There won't be a summary conclusion. In the regions, it's about the same. When you run for the position, you'll be given a minute, I believe, depending on what the RAD determines. You'll be given time to make an introductory speech about who you are and your qualifications, and then there'll be questions from the delegates in the region. So it's about the same format, and it is mandatory as well for you to be in that space. This part here, pay very close attention to. And then I will be actually sending out to every single candidate. This is new this year. I've developed an FAQ for campaigning. This has implications and somewhat can be embarrassing when you've put in for a position and then you are found to be campaigning. So here's the rules on campaigning. When you if you declare and send your statement in by February 24th, but if when I contact you and say you're eligible, then you can begin campaigning. That's the benefit of declaring now, if you're running for a position, because you cannot campaign before you're found to be eligible, and you cannot campaign, except for a couple exceptions, at GA. You're not permitted to do that. And you will be disqualified if you are found to be campaigning. And so just really remember that. Think about that before you turn in a candidate statement or before you decide to run from the floor. That means that while folks who declare in advance are now using their social media, going to their delegates that are really campaigning, if you are campaigning and you haven't declared, you will not be able to run for a position. Now, we have expanded at the GA a couple more opportunities for you to campaign. Well, of course, during the forum, that's your time to talk about yourself and your qualifications and your experience. But we're also this year going to have an executive officer meet and greet, and that's about an hour and a half, and then you will be able to campaign during that event to any folks that attend that event. So just know that those are the periods, and any other place that we dedicate by listing on the agenda that you are allowed to campaign. There are spending limits for campaigning. You can't spend over $100, or you may be asked to provide proof of how much you spent on campaigning. I don't think that has not been a problem in the past. Violations and reporting and verification. So once you get the FAQs, or even take a look at the elections procedure, you will notice, pay close attention to the campaigning pieces, and anybody can say that you've made a violation. We've added a couple of pieces in here now. If somebody has claims that you've been campaigning, they have to have proof that you've been campaigning and witnesses. And then if the claim is made by somebody who's also a candidate, there has to be other people that validate that. So we've added a couple of tight things, and you will be able to explain what happened to the elections committee. So just know there is a due process type of process in there. And then the elections committee are the folks that will be making the decision, reviewing the evidence, and determining if an individual should be disqualified. So just make sure you're clear. If you read the elections procedures, review the FAQ, and you're just not sure, just contact me. We will also go over this again at GA. But I will let you know that I do monitor social media. And here's some things. It's kind of small, but this is just an excerpt from the FAQs. And it's just that when you can start beginning campaigning, what activities are allowed. And then, for example, if you put up a Instagram post of you're running for a position before GA starts, it has to come down. I mean, completely come down. It cannot be still viewed on your social media. There are spending limits, which I mentioned, that's $100. You cannot run by a slate. So that means if you decide to run for RAD and you ask your buddy to run for LAD, you can't say the two of you are running together. That's not allowed, and you would be disqualified. You can receive endorsements from other folks. You can ask for an endorsement from a board of directors member. You can ask for endorsements from your college president. You just have to show proof that they're endorsing you. And then, as I mentioned, there are some opportunities to campaign at GA, but they're limited. So I kind of covered those here. A couple of other things you should know. I just mentioned no slates. There are runoff elections. Let's say you're running for a RAD position in the region and nobody gets a majority vote, then there would be a runoff of the two highest candidates. Once they come in, then you would have a runoff election, and between those two with the highest number of delegates, then they would run for the position. You can, if you're the only one running, be voted by acclamation. Somebody would just call from the floor. They want to vote you in as by acclamation. And this is true of the executive officers' positions, both the runoff election and the acclamation. Tie breaking. This is tricky, but it does happen where there's a tie. The tie breaking is then the chair casts the final decision, and they do it via a number of ways to tie break. Either they go ahead and do it, sometimes they, have some creative way to break the tie. Duration and term limits. If you are serving as a regional officer now, you can run for a position as another position as a RAD, in the regional officers, but you can only serve for a maximum of 2 years in your region. So in 2 years, if you've served 2 years in either the same position or a different one, you can no longer run in the region, but you can run as an executive officer. All terms are for 1 year, but it's a max of 2 years in the region, 2 years at the executive officer position. I've already talked about disqualifications and their presiding officers. The only thing to know about with presiding officers is that the president presides over the executive officers. Unless the president is running, then it would fall to the next officer. Same is true in the regions. The regional affairs director serves as the chair. Unless they're running for a position, then it would be the next vice chair. So that's how the elections and the preceding officers go. I think I've covered endorsement. The only thing with endorsements is once GA starts on April 4th, no more endorsements can be made. So if you're at GA and somebody says, "Oh, I want to endorse you," it can't happen. Endorsement timeline has passed. I just want to provide you a little bit about the elections committee. We are looking for members to serve on the elections committee. 5 volunteers, no candidates can serve, no board members, regional officers, or delegates can serve on the elections committee. I will select the election committee, and usually I take most people that volunteer because we rarely get volunteers. So if you know some folks that are not your friends, but you know them in your SBA or something, then you can ask them to apply. And then I do look for an advisor who doesn't have a candidate in the pool. Responsibilities, reviewing and recommending revisions to the policy. We tried to meet in fall. We were unable to meet in fall, so the board has revised the policies, strengthening them in the areas I discussed. And then the restrictions on the committee members cannot run, and they can't have friends or students from their college who are running. Has to really be to control the bias as much as possible. And then committee's role is they do help in making decisions about any disputes we have about a disqualification. So here are some things to remember after the elections. There are a number of things that you have to do regardless of the position you run from, either an executive officer or a regional officer. So there are some forms you have to complete and fill out. You will be given a timeline. If you do not meet those timelines, you would have to run again for the position. More than likely, we will go to the runner-up in your region or in the executive officers and appoint them. So meeting time schedules and communicating with staff when they send that information to you is really critical. And this year we've added a new thing, all executive officers, that's the presidents, vice presidents, will need to attend a meeting on May 15th. We're having the first ever retreat of executive officers that will be able to attend that meeting to be able to onboard quickly, something we haven't done in the past. So with that, I see there might have been some questions in the chat. I can always go back. I can always go back to a slide if you have a question about a specific slide. And then Valeria, your question, can you get this presentation after the meeting? Yes, I will send the presentation. I will post the presentation on our website. So if you want to touch base with me afterwards, and here's my email, I can send it to you, or I will post it on the website. Either way that's convenient for you. So with that, I'll just open it up for any questions. This is your opportunity to ask me any questions. No question is a stupid question. Just want to make sure that you all are clear on the process, so that there's no confusion or outline questions. So anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi. Probably, yes. Can we still run if we're graduating from community college and transferring after spring?
You can, but you would have to maintain 5 units regardless.
So if we're transferring to a 4-year and we're going to be full-time students, is that fine?
Nothing precludes you as long as you can do the work.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. X.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. Forgive my tardiness, but you said you are on the website is the application forms. What if you already completed it, but you're not sure if it's already done?
You mean if I've received it?
Yes, ma'am.
Follow up with me. I don't believe I received any applications yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? This is your opportunity. Yes, Cody, go ahead.
I have 2 quick questions. When does campaigning begin? Is it once you are determined eligible?
And I think the timeline says that I will determine eligibility on the 28th, by the 28th, but I'm usually quick. As soon as you send it in, I'll look it over, and I think you have to send in just the from the advisor. That's all I'm really looking at, from the form from the advisors, and then I'll tell you you're eligible. That's when you can start campaigning. You can, social media. I know social media campaigns are very successful, so that's when you can start campaigning. Yes.
Well, that's my next question. I have an Instagram page where I post stuff from both Cabrillo and work I do with the SSCCC. Can I use that one, or do I need to create a new Instagram page for campaigning?
Oh, no, you can use whatever communications you have. The only thing you can't use is an SSCCC social media post. I mean,
Okay.
you can share it on there, but you can't use that as a vehicle for social media postings, because you have an advantage over other folks. Just remember that if you have an advantage over other folks, then maybe you should not be doing it that way. But yeah, you can use the same page. The only thing to remember is on June 4th, I mean, not June 4th, woo, I don't know where that came from, April 4th, you have to take everything down that was once there that has to do with campaigning.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Canada.
Hi, Dr. Adams. Thank you. I just had a question. So, when you say advisors, is that advisors of SBAs? And another question, does a student have to be inside of their local SBA to run?
That is really 2 very good questions. No, you do not have to be in your SBA. And no, it does not have to be an advisor in your SBA. It can be any advisor on your campus. You can go to a general advisor. All they're doing is verifying that you're in good standing and that you're taking 5 units. It's easy.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Adams.
You're welcome.
I have another question. Maybe I got confused. Since I'm transferring, can I still run for a regional position, or would that only have to be, can I only run for an executive position?
No, we have no restrictions on which positions you can run for, as long as you maintain the 5 units and
It would
in
have-
good standing. Mhm.
Thank you. It would have to be for for the region that I was part of, correct?
Correct. You have to be in the you have to run for the region. If you're going to be a regional officer, if you're going to be an executive, it doesn't matter.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Adams.
You're welcome. Yes, Cody.
Just really quickly, and I'm not saying I'm going to do this necessarily, but if I'm going to Cabrillo College and I'm transferring to, let's just say Fresno State or Sacramento State, could I still run for a position within Region 4?
Are you still going to school in Region 4?
Yeah.
Yes. There's nothing that precludes it. Now, is it going to be an easy load for you? I've had some students being transfer students and haven't been able to do the job. So just know you have to be still do your work.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Valeria.
Hello. So my question was, what would be considered campaigning at GA?
What would be considered campaigning? If you go up to a person and you said, "Hey, I'm running for president. Let me tell you a little bit about myself," that's campaigning. If it's a really kind of a gray area, if somebody comes up to you and starts talking to you and you say, "Oh, by the way, did you know I'm running for president?" That's campaigning. If somebody comes up to you and says, I see that you're running for president. Can you sit and talk to them about your position? I'd be very careful about that. You might just want to point them to your campaign statement and just say everything's there. You might be able to answer 1 or 2 questions, but be very careful because sometimes it stretches past is that campaigning or not? And any flyers, any pictures, any paper. One year we had somebody that shared magic bubbles that had their picture on it. That's still campaigning. Okay. Did that answer you?
Yes, thank you.
Yogi.
What are some good things that you have seen in the past, that suggestions that you should say for anyone, obviously that's here, good do's and don'ts, right? I understand the whole campaigning, it's a big double-edged sword, especially if you don't take it down beforehand. So to counter that, what are some good points or feedback? I don't know if you understand my question.
I do. So, in my experience, I think that people that declare early and use that time effectively as far as communicating who they are and their experience, do better. Social media, getting out there, talking to folks, and if you're running for executive officer, maybe going to DAs and sharing information about yourself during public comment. I think those are good ways. I've seen people do bad things like tearing somebody else down and talking, saying, "Oh, well, did you know they did this?" That kind of stuff doesn't really work. Kind of like following some of our national politics. Some kinds can backfire. But I think sharing and getting your picture out there, getting people to know who you are. To be quite frank, it's just like a national election. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a popularity contest, right? You just got to get your name out there and what you're running for. And if it's in your regions only, it's you have less colleges to kind of get out and expose yourself to. But I've seen that the best things is really the social media and declaring early. The people that declare from the floor while they have 1 or 2 opportunities, if somebody has already been out with social media, generally the person who's been out in social media will get elected. Not always, but generally. Yes, Cody.
Can I receive a endorsement from my delegate at Cabrillo?
Yeah, there's nothing to prevent, as long as you do it before April 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, and your Senate can endorse you. Your college president, you can get another region who knows you to endorse you. Doesn't have to be people from your own region. Yeah. Yes.
Is there value to multiple endorsements? Are caucuses allowed to endorse? Um,
Caucuses can, oh, I think, let me double check. I think caucuses can endorse. Hold on, I have have it open here somewhere. Endorsements. I think board of directors can't endorse. Okay, SSCCC Board of Directors, regions, and region officers cannot endorse. So it doesn't list a caucus, so a caucus can endorse. Too quiet. Oh, go ahead, Yogi. Finish.
is there a limit to how many people, kind of like with the resolutions, right? 5 resolutions maximum. Is there a limit to how many people can be endorsed by a certain position and or SBA or anything like that?
No, no, there's no limit on endorsements. Valeria?
The
Yeah, go ahead.
the bodies that are not allowed uh to support any candidate.
Yeah, it's the board of directors, the regions, or any of the board of directors members or regional officers. And that makes sense, right? You don't want the region to endorse somebody that maybe they want to endorse, and it's kind of like them voting in advance, putting their finger on the scale on who they want to be there. So yeah. More questions? Yes, Cody.
And you said once we get a endorsement, is there a process where we have to submit like a document that that person endorsed us?
It's just an email to me saying that I endorse this candidate. So, and then you can start putting that in your campaigning materials.
Okay.
And then they can campaign for you as well. Yeah. Andrew.
Hello. I just had a question. My student body association president is an officer in our region board. Can he still sponsor me if I were to run for not his position?
No, he cannot.
Okay.
But your student body association could endorse you, but not that individual.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions. Y'all are thinking about this.
I have another question.
Okay.
Can you talk to us a bit more about the responsibilities? And I also want to ask about, because I heard there are paid positions. So that's my question.
Well, I'll preface the paid positions is the pay does not cover the workload. And I see I have a couple of regional officers here, and I'm sure they will echo that. It's just a small stipend to help to relieve some of the, see, Region 10's laughing. Yeah. So it's just a small, token to say we value you, and we want to give you some, some compensation. So all of our board positions are compensated. So currently, our officers, the president receives $1,000. The other vice presidents receive $500. That's a month. Our regional officers receive $300 a month. And our delegates receive money as well. So they are receiving stipends. And there are some requirements. You have to do certain things. Like you have to make sure you chair your delegate assembly. If you don't, you lose money. So there are some requirements to those stipends. So some of the responsibilities, and I don't know, I can ask some of my regional folks to help me with this, but the responsibilities of the executive officers vary. For example, obviously the president has a heavy load, right? He's he or she or they are the front person in the organization. So they are representing the organization to our constituents, to the chancellor's office, to our other partners, our system partners. They are leading the board, they're doing the agendas, they're overseeing the work and the board, the 26-member board. So they're overseeing all of that. So their workload is heavy. And if they don't do their work, the organization suffers immensely. But you have the vice president who also has other responsibilities. They step in when the president's not there, but they also they're part of the accountability. So they're monitoring the board, making sure they're doing what their work they should be doing, and they're completing the accountability reports. And then they step in wherever the president needs them. So wherever they need to be, the president assigns them. They also assist the president in other areas as requested. Your VPs have different roles, like comms works with our communications team, and they also oversee the comms officers in the region. So they are really doing that heavy lifting as far as making sure the comms officers are doing their job, making sure they have the resources, and working with our comms team to do that. Our VP of Finance is responsible for our budget for the SSCCC. They work very close with me on the budgeting. They also oversee the treasurers, make sure the treasurers are trained. And then they also can be part of participatory governance groups and as such. Your VP of Regional Affairs actually oversees the regions, so works very closely with your regional affairs officers, making sure they're doing their job, monitoring each of the regions and the work that's going on, meeting one-on-one. So they have kind of a heavy load, making sure they're doing that work. And the VP of Legislative Affairs works with our ledge team or advocacy team, and they're actually moving over in the Capitol, helping to do the bills and the legislation and really working in that capacity. So those are all of our officers and their roles and responsibilities, and it's really overseeing everybody in those places. Now, our regional affairs directors run the region. They're responsible for the region. So they are doing the delegate assembly. They're getting all the delegates, verified, working on one-on-one and making sure that all their colleges are active, going out and visiting their colleges and really doing that work, and then keeping up with whatever's happening in the region, making sure they're doing that work. And then all of our board members do other things as far as serve on committees and stuff. But our legislative affairs directors are the legislative arm, so they're making sure our delegates know about legislation in the region, making sure that they are working with the delegates and those that are interested in the advocacy piece, going to regional meetings with regional legislative offices. So they're doing all those pieces. Comms is doing comms in the area, so they're doing the social media in the region, working with the colleges and helping to get communication out that way, doing the newsletter. And then your treasurer do any fundraising and anything to do with the budget, and all the while doing other things as needed by the region. So I hope that's very quick. There are job descriptions on the website, so you can go in and see all the details of which every position does. So check that out if it's a position you're interested in. So then I see lots of hands. Yogi, you'll go first.
Are there any questions that we should be asking that we don't know to ask?
If you're on the board of directors, there's work. So you have to go to yeah, thanks, X. That was a good one. The board, you have to go to a monthly meeting. So we go to monthly meetings. So that's every month you commit to 2 days a week. In the month, we go out on Fridays and then have an all-day meeting on Saturday. So that's every month. And you are responsible to be there and participate. You also go to conferences. We send you all to different conferences. conferences that you're interested in. And that really is a training opportunity, professional development for you, but it's also getting other folks to know who we are, and getting us out there and informing our students so that we can better be informed as we're making decisions at the state level. So just know that it's just not, it's not an easy job to be a board of directors member or even a regional representative, that there's work involved. And if you don't do your job, you're liable to get an article of removal or be removed from your position. So it's a lot to think about. It is a commitment that you're making, and it is a job. It's, even though you may not be compensated that much, you are required to put in the time. Good question, Yogi. Cody.
So can we run for a executive position and a regional position? Can you file 2 applications for both?
Yep. And obviously, if you run for the region 1, you get it, and you run for an executive 1, you get it. You have to resign from the region, and usually we'll pull from the runner-up, or you leave that spot open. So think about that wisely if you want to leave your region in a kind of a gap if you don't get that position. So yes, you can. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that. X, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I know it might be a little tricky, but can Dreamers apply to these positions? And if so, can you walk through the process of that?
It's exactly the same. We don't exclude individual students from doing that. The only difference with Dreamers is the stipend. We are not, because there's no social security number unless they have an IBN, that there's no way to provide them compensation. That's the only difference. Anything else, they serve in all the same capacities. When Real ID comes into place, there may be some restrictions to traveling, but we would work with our students in that capacity. But we do not exclude. Cody.
I already know the answer to this one, but I just want to throw it up for you. For people that might not get elected, is there any other ways to get involved in the SSCCC?
Oh, there's tons. I mean, you can always serve on committees with in the regions. And then there's also participating on participatory governance groups. We can never get enough students to serve at that state level. And we do compensate you for serving on those committees. We pay $25 an hour, which is, it's pretty good. I think it's comparable to a hourly rate. So you get an $25 for prep time plus the time spent at the meetings, and then you get to participate and get the experience that you can even put on your resume. And if it's something that you're really interested, you also get to use your passion to participate. So there's that, as far as doing. And then right now, if you know, I think one of them might close. No, I think both of them should still be open when we go to GA. There's 2 really great opportunities right now. There's the Board of Governors student member. That's the highest level of governance for a student leader in California community colleges. They meet every other month, and there is a stipend that goes along with that. It's a 2-year commitment. Applications on our website. If you don't want to do it, tell your friends. It's there and it's open. The other one is it's not open. It's open every 4 years for us. Or yeah, 2 years, 2 years. No, 4 years. Is the California Student Aid Commission. That commission it also has a stipend, and I think it also potentially has scholarships with it. I'm not sure exactly, but it's a 2-year commitment. And if you're interested in financial aid, it's a great opportunity to get up and get your voice out. And serving on a commission is a pretty great resume builder.
When does that last one open?
Oh, they're both open right now, and they're both on our website. But that one, I know you've been asking questions about transfer. You cannot be a transfer student.
Okay, thank you.
You can be for the Board of Governors. You cannot be for the Student Aid Commission. Any other question? You all have some great questions, so thank you very much for that. Yes, Yogi.
I'm on the website right now, Dr. Adams, and I don't know how to find those two opportunities that you just mentioned.
So you would go under website, and then it's right under state advocacy. You see California Student Aid and Board of Governors right there. You see that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. And if you all are interested in participatory governance, that one's also there under statewide advocacy. Okay, and let's see. Did you have another question, Yogi? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Valeria?
Not yet.
Valeria?
Yes, so I have a question on the chat. I also have another question that I just thought of.
Go ahead.
So my question is, I know that for the committees, it says you review applications once a year, I think, after General Assembly. Is that correct?
For what position?
For committees?
For the participatory governance committees?
Yes.
Oh, we're looking all year round.
Okay. I submitted an application a while back and I didn't hear back.
Okay. I will take a look at it. It might be that whatever your topic was, either we didn't have enough information from you or there wasn't a position that fit the request that you had. So I will make a note and follow up on that. Chris, I saw your hand up earlier. Did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Dr. Adams. Just one. How would you advise someone to think through whether they decide to run or not?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, just knowing what you hope to take on in the next semester. So your goals, first of and foremost. I've had some folks this year carrying 16 units. That's a lot, and try to serve on a board. It's really a lot. So if you're going to take 16 units, you might look for something a little bit lighter to serve on. Then I would, if you look at that and you say, okay, I can handle it, then I'd start looking at what the job responsibilities were for the position I wanted to run and if it's something I could do. And for me personally, I'd want to know, can I do it a good job at it? Because this is not just, your reputation here, but as later on as a student, as a transfer student, and potentially career, because some of the stuff at the student leadership government piece will stick with you, whether you think it will or not. So just your workload, and if you had the capacity to do the job and do it well, that's the most. And then for me personally, in all my time in my careers, I always wanted something I was passionate about, because if I wasn't passionate about it, I was not going to stick with it. So make sure it's something that you love and you know that you can invest the time and the heart into doing it.
And that's a great answer. Thank you, Dr. Adams.
You're welcome. And Valeria, your question about you cannot serve on your region and the board at the same time. Well, it depends. You can serve as the RAD, the Regional Affairs Director, also serves on the board. So those positions, the RAD and the LAD, serve as board of directors members. So they go to the monthly meetings as well as the responsibility in their own region. And I know my RAD 8 and RAD 10 will tell you those are heavy lifts. Then you have to be able to, one, mind your region and know what's going on there. You got to go to the board meetings once a month. You got to go to the conferences, and you have to maintain your school schedule. So there's a lot of, and if you work and take care of the family, it's quite a bit. So you are serving at that. You cannot serve as the treasurer and as an executive officer. So you couldn't do that. You can only do one or the other. I hope that answers your question. Yes, Yogi.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to hear maybe from a different perspective. What are two things? What are the best candidates that you have seen and that have been successful at what they're doing? And what are the ones that have failed and why? I'm assuming because workload and time management, overloading themselves, do you have a different perspective?
No, you've hit it on there. It's workload and priorities and taking on too much and thinking you can do it and then realizing you can't. And then having to drop and some people have the temperament not to want to drop, so they even stick it out even though they know they're not doing that great at it. Folks that, I have seen, it's really funny. I've seen students come in this position shy and meek and a little reserved. By the time they're finished, man, you wouldn't know the difference. It's really a growth if you're open to wanting to take on new challenges and really grow, because we'll give you opportunities to get in front of groups, to get in front of people, to learn to grow your own leadership skills, to gain confidence in who you are. So I wouldn't discourage anybody from moving into this space because it is a great opportunity. You meet some wonderful people and you're able to speak on behalf of students about things you're really passionate about. So you're given that bullhorn. So it's a good opportunity. If you have, like I said earlier, the time and the bandwidth to invest to do a good job, and you're open to wanting to grow in this space. So, because it will humble you in some sense, at least it should humble you in some sense. So I think serving on the board, serving in the regions is a great opportunity to grow and do good.
Thank you, Dr. Adams.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we're at the last couple of minutes. Any last questions? Y'all were great.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you so much for answering all of our questions. And what you just said right now, I feel like that actually made me think I'm going to apply, and I was a little scared. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing anyone in some conference if you guys go. I'm from College of the Desert, by the way.
Oh, you have one of my favorite advisors. I love Carlos. He's my friend. Tell him I said hello. Yeah, Cody, go ahead.
I also want to say thank you, but I thought Alta was your favorite advisor.
I like all the advisors, but Carlos and I go back to SSCCC back in 2006. We could tell you some stories about our 1 a.m. walks in General Assembly. Yeah, you all know what you do. It's been Carlos is a friend, but I like all my advisors. I think they do a good service. So thank you all for being here. I hope you all consider running. If not, stop me in GA. I'll be running like the chicken with no head, but stop and say hello to me in person. I look forward to seeing all of you engage, and I hope you do all consider running. There's one other piece of advice I would tell you as you're running. Those running against you are not your enemies. They are still students. They have different stories, different lives. It should be a healthy competition. May the best person win. But the best person doesn't mean the other person's not just as good. So it just means they might have done something different and that got them noticed. So just know that we want a positive experience at GA in the elections process, and just be the person that is that. Don't mimic the stuff that's happening at the national level. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't need any more of that. All right, you all have a great weekend. If you have any questions, let me put my emails up there. I think it is, isn't it? Let me see. Is it up there? Hold on.
For me, it's a little blurry. I don't know if it's my
Oh.
internet. Oh, there we go.
That better? Yeah, that's my email. If you have any questions, just pop me an email. I will answer them. And if you want to jump on a phone call, you can try and we can set something up. I'm here and available even at GA to answer any questions. I'd rather you ask the questions than put yourself in a place where you'll be disqualified. So, I look forward to seeing all of you at GA, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.